I realized that at that point, I didn't really have anything to lose. I felt like I was getting sick. I felt like I was getting like the flu. I had body aches.
What was your starting weight?
I was,
Welcome, 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 welcome 2.0 mommy.
thank
I'm
you.
excited to have you. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good. I'm glad that you're feeling better too.
Thank you. So today we are going to interview with 2.0 mommy. We are glad she is here. We want to get to know her and learn a little bit about how she started her
Happy to be
journey.
here.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background first.
Sure. Okay. Do you want the abridged version or like the
Whatever you want to share.
Okay, so I am 44 years old. I have 10 kids and I homeschool some of them. Some of them have already graduated. And yeah, my life has really just been raising my kids and just being busy with everything that entails. And this is finally like the first time in my adult life that I'm like prioritizing myself and just putting my health first. And it's good. It's good. It's good things.
Have you always homeschooled?
Yes. Yeah. So
Oh,
my
okay.
oldest, when I say 10 kids, a lot of people think they just envision a lot of like toddlers and like school age kids, but my oldest is 24. He's 24. Well, he's about to be 24 in like two weeks. And then my youngest is 4. So I've been homeschooling since my oldest was in kindergarten.
Oh, wow, wow.
Yeah.
Well, how do you enjoy that? Do you miss the time when the kids were in school? How do you compare the 2?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's definitely a lot of work, but I really enjoy having that time with them. School just takes up so much of their time. And actually, my 3 oldest did go to high school. They went to a Christian private school for high school, as well as teaching younger kids how to read. And it's very like time consuming. So it just made sense to send them to school for high school so I could have more time to homeschool like their younger siblings. And I really missed them. I really did. I just felt bad that I wasn't spending as much time. They were older at that point, so it wasn't like horrible, but I miss them.
Oh,
So
wow,
I
okay.
enjoy it.
That's
But
so
it's a lot
sweet.
of work.
Oh, I can imagine. It's a lot of work with this one. So I can't
Yeah.
imagine homeschooling more
Yeah.
than one or just being at home with more than one. So
Exactly.
what are the age ranges? 24 and then your youngest is
4.
4. Okay, 4.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. So you have
So
a big span.
yeah, I do. So they were usually about a year and a half, 2 years apart. And my last two, there was like a 5 year gap between. So I have the 4 year old and then my 9 year old. So,
Now, this question is from my daughter. She wants to know, what does 2.0 mommy mean and where did you get that name from?
oh, that's a good question. So actually, I think it was around 2017, maybe 2016. I actually had started an Instagram page because I was going to document my weight loss journey. And I guess I just thought of the name because I was at the time thought I was going to like reinvent myself, like the better version of myself. So that's why I came up with 2.0 mommy. But then as it turned out, I never made that transformation. So I just held on to the Instagram page like all these years. I wasn't active on it, but I just held on to it. So when I started my YouTube, it just made sense to use 2.0 mommy.
Oh, very cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. And she said, Mommy, what does 2.0 mean? And I said, she has 10 children. So maybe that means she's working really hard. She's
Yeah.
beyond one. She's at 2. So
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool that she asked that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question.
Can you tell us about your health journey? Tell us about how you started Zepbound and what led you to start Zepbound.
Yeah, like all of my teenage years, and even after having several kids, I didn't have a weight issue at all. I was very fortunate. I always lost all the baby weight. I didn't gain a lot of weight with each pregnancy either. I gained probably like 25 pounds. So I guess it was easy to get rid of the baby weight. And I guess it was right around after my maybe during my 7th pregnancy or my 6th, something like that. I just at that point then started holding on to the weight. And really, actually, now that I think of it, it was at after the birth of my 7th baby. He was not an easy baby. He had really bad colic and he was just crying all night. Like he would start crying from like 7 or 8 at night all the way up until 4 in the morning. And I just remember eating a lot, like snacking and just trying to stay awake, like just trying to stay awake so that I needed something to do. And eating was giving me that thing to do, but I wasn't snacking on celery. I was snacking on cookies and chips. And so the weight really started, like the binge eating, I think really started then. And I had a few more kids after that, and then I wasn't losing the baby weight. And so by the time I had my last baby in 2020, I was already pretty overweight. But actually, it wasn't until 2023 that I really put on a lot of weight in a short amount of time. So I had actually put on 24 pounds in just a couple of months.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, at that point, I was just out of control, like completely out of control. I just was eating constantly, like constantly eating. So that's when I had actually gone to the doctor, and she had done some blood work, and she didn't like the look of some things. My blood pressure was a little high, my liver enzymes were high. And so she had actually sent me back home with a follow up for 6 months. And she had wanted me in that time to lose weight, exercise, and then she wanted to see where I was after that. And I actually didn't end up losing weight. I gained weight in that time. And so by the time, so I think my appointment was sometime in the summer, and then I had my follow up for 6 months later. So right around December, it started to dawn on me that I hadn't changed my lifestyle at all. I wasn't losing weight. I wasn't doing anything. And so I actually joined an app. It was called, I forget what it's called now, but at the time it was called Copilot. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
So basically, they just pair you with a personal trainer, and they check in on you. Like they develop like an exercise plan for you, and they check up on you and make sure that you're doing it. And it's synced to like your Fitbit or your Apple Watch, so they can see like your heart rate while you're doing the exercises. And so at that point, I was just looking for some accountability, really. And so I joined that, and I had a great trainer. And so she started me off with body weight exercises, and not too crazy, like 3 times a week, body weight only. And I was actually doing pretty good with that, but I still didn't have the eating under control. So even though I was using this app and I was exercising 3 times a week, I wasn't losing weight because I was still binge eating. I was still eating a lot. So my appointment rolls around in February, and I didn't even want to go because I felt so embarrassed that I was supposed to have made all these changes. And instead, I actually gained more weight. So I didn't even want to go to the doctor. And I go to the doctor, and I mentioned to her, she's very nice. She's never made me feel bad. So I have a good relationship with her. And I just made a comment. I don't even remember what I said, but I said something about how, like, that I wished Ozempic was safer or something, and that I would definitely try something like that. And she was like, actually, it's not like what you hear about. Because at that time, and even still, there was a lot of negative stories about people getting really sick on it. And I had seen something on TV about it being linked to cancer. And I was just hearing so many horrible things. And I just felt like I would never get on that kind of medication. And so when I made this comment to her, she just reassured me about a lot of those things. And I figured it was worth a try. And so I didn't make that appointment with the intention of getting started on Zepbound or anything. We spoke about it at that visit, and she prescribed Zepbound to me, and the rest was history.
Now, were you hesitant to take it, or
I
when you
was
at home?
hesitant, and like before seeing her, I was very hesitant. I actually had even talked to my mom and told her, like, don't get, because she's type 2 diabetic, and I was reading how that was a type 2 diabetes medication, and I knew that she had an appointment coming up. So I was like, don't let them put you on Ozempic. It's really bad. I've heard a lot of bad things about it. And so I was convinced that I would never, like, even though it sounded appealing, because I was seeing that people were losing weight, I was just convinced I would never, it just seemed too risky. And so when I made that comment and she just reassured me, I just trusted her. And I realized that at that point, I didn't really have anything to lose. Once she reassured me that I was probably going to be okay, and she just told me that a lot of those, first of all, she had said that type 2 diabetics are more prone to some of the side effects that people were reporting, like some of the GI issues. And then she said a lot of it has to do with the dosing, that if you move up too quickly on the dose, it's just going to cause more side effects. And she just suggested that I take it really nice and slow. And that the minute I started to have any bad side effects, that we would just back off. I don't need to stay on it. So with all of that, I just felt more at peace with trying it. And so I did. And I'm glad I did.
So how do you manage side effects? Do you have any side effects on Zepbound?
I really don't. I've been very lucky. Initially, I did have some of like the first injection, actually, I felt like I was getting sick. I felt like I was getting like the flu. I had body aches, I had like a headache, and I did not feel well. I had nausea. But after that first injection, really have the body aches, more just like the nausea. And I guess as I took it, by the end of the first month, I really didn't have any side effects. So I've
Oh,
been
okay.
fortunate with that.
What was your starting weight when you started taking Zepbound?
I was 214.
214. Okay,
Mhm.
214. And did you have a goal set of how much you wanted to lose?
No, my doctor said she'd be happy if I got to 150, even though she believed that it would be healthier if I went a little lower than that. She just felt that at 150 I would be out of the obese category, or not the obese, the overweight. I was in the obese category already, but 150 would put me at the very beginning of the overweight category.
Okay, yeah.
So I guess she just didn't know what I was capable of doing or how much I would end up losing. So she didn't want to like put a lot of pressure on me and scare me off or whatever. But since then, she thinks that I could probably get down to 130, 135. So that's what I'm thinking, but I don't know.
So you think your goal is going to be 135?
Yeah, 130, 135. I'm looking at body fat percentage, and right now I'm still at 29% body fat. So I'd like to get it a little lower than that, like maybe 25%. I don't know if I can, but it'd be nice if I can get there, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes as I get closer.
That's nice that you're focusing on more than just the weight. You're looking at other benchmarks like your percentage of body fat. So I've heard some people say that if they set a goal to get to 135, they would go down to 125, or their doctor has encouraged that, so that if they eventually come off the medication, they'll have that 10-pound wiggle room. Have you
Right.
considered that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably why I want to just get closer to that range, just so that I can have a little bit of that wiggle room. So, like, my husband has never ever struggled with his weight, but his weight does fluctuate. He goes probably like within 10 pounds, and he's been that way. We've been married 24 years. He's always been within those 10 pounds. And so I think that's probably normal to fluctuate. And it's not like suddenly he's 10
Right.
pounds overweight, but like slowly he goes up a little and then he comes back down. And so I want to allow that for myself to that buffer.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think I would want to do that too. So
Yeah.
can you explain your calorie counting to us and how you manage the food?
Yeah, so I should pay closer attention to that, because if people ask, then I can give them like a more accurate picture of how much I'm eating. I really don't. The only time I track the calories is when I'm doing like my food, like my meal prep videos or something like that, because obviously that's something that people will want to know.
Yeah, yeah, yes, yeah.
So I do track it for those meals, but generally I don't. I guess I pretty much have an idea of, I eat the same things and that helps. So I'm not like constantly trying to figure out how many calories is in this and that. And I keep like a mental tally of how much I'm eating. So I'm trying to stay at about 1500 calories, but I'm not weighing everything, or
Okay.
I don't know. I guess it's just easier not to do that, but I probably should, just so that I can let people know exactly. But when I do the food videos, I do make sure that I'm weighing and measuring things, but I'm not like that every day.
Okay. So are you keeping track of your protein at all, about how much you're getting in?
Yeah, originally I was doing like 130 grams of protein, and I was able to do that because I was drinking a protein shake in the morning, but I don't do that anymore just because I lost the taste for it. I guess I got sick of it. So I don't
Mhm.
really have the protein shake anymore, but I'm having a little less. That was always my goal, 130, but I don't think I don't have to reach that goal every single day. I'm okay if I come under that a couple of days a week. And I think in the end, it like balances out. But that's my goal. 130 would be like a great day. But I definitely try to get like 90 to 100 grams of protein a day. That's like bare minimum.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like what I'm trying to do too.
Is it?
Like
Yeah.
100, it's hard to get even over the 100, but
Shake helps with that though.
it does. Now, do you like protein bars or anything else that
I don't like
protein chips?
protein. I've not tried the chips. I've tried a couple of protein bars. I'm not really a fan of them. So I was really just relying on like that because sometimes the day gets away from you and or sometimes actually I would make something for the kids, like for my family to eat and I didn't like it or it didn't really have a lot of protein and then I would just have, I don't know, something with a protein shake. So now that I don't have that, it's a little harder because that was just like a quick and easy way of getting the protein in. So
Yeah.
now I just try like for dinner, if I'm going to have like chicken, I make sure that I'm giving myself a decent portion of that and lesser of the sides or whatever. And I think it's 6 ounces. I believe it's 6 ounces of chicken is about 35 grams of protein or
Yes.
something like that.
I thought it was 30, 30, 35.
Yeah, I should have. No, actually, I think it's more. I think it's like 45 or something.
So what is a typical eating day for you? What do you start off with for breakfast? And then what does your lunch look like? And then what does your dinner look like?
Sure. So I'm not doing the protein shake in the morning like I used to, but I have a lot of yogurt, like Greek yogurt. It's higher in protein than regular yogurt. So I do have a lot of yogurt and about a cup of yogurt, it's a little more, it ends up being like a little more than a cup I think is about 30 grams of protein. So I will have that. And I've never been like a big breakfast person anyway. So that's actually enough for me. And by the time I get up, one of my kids decided she wanted to go to school. She's in the public school for her junior year. And so I get up, I take her to school, I come home. There's not really a lot of time to have anything more than like yogurt or protein shakes, but because then my other kids are waking up at that time. I'll have that. And then in the afternoon, I'll usually just have leftovers of whatever dinner was, which works out great for me because if there was like chicken or something, that's how I get my afternoon protein in. And usually it's like a smaller portion. So I'll have yogurt again. I love yogurt. So I do eat that a lot. And then, like for snacks, I'll have usually like an apple, or a lot of times I make avocado toast and I'll have that with like cottage cheese. And the
I've seen
cottage cheese
that,
has
yeah.
protein, and I love that. So that's usually lunch. And then dinner will be whatever I make for the family, and I just give myself like a bigger portion of the protein or something like that.
You were right about the chicken. It has 46 grams of protein for
Yeah.
6 ounces.
Yeah.
So
So if I'm having that for dinner and then I have something similar like leftovers for lunch, I'm already at almost 100 grams or something.
good. So
Yeah.
yeah, you have a good sense of getting that protein in. So that's good. Well, so you're so no snacks other than apples and fruit and veggies,
Yeah,
basically.
just I know a lot of it is money. I would love to have like fresh fruit all the time, but it's expensive. It adds up. And then I feel bad too if I'm eating it, then I have to share with everybody else. And
Mm.
like our food budget is the biggest expense that we have. We're just a lot of people. So it's not all of my kids live at home. So I only have 8 at home, me and my husband, and then my mother-in-law. So we're how many people is that?
That's
Eight,
still
nine,
11. Is that
11.
11 people? Yes,
11
yeah.
people, yeah. So our food budget is like insanely expensive. And so I would love to have all these other things like the protein chips and stuff, but I look at the price and I'm like, it's just too much money. Like I can't do it. I can't do it. So
They
I
are
just do the
expensive.
yogurt.
So what's your go-to dish? If you had to have if you had to give somebody, okay, this is a dish I would suggest that you eat with within my calorie range, it's high in protein. Like what's a go-to dish for you?
It's very basic, but I really like chicken salad. I just really enjoy it. And it's so easy to make. And of course, if you have enough chicken, you're definitely getting that protein in. So if you have a decent sized bowl of like chicken salad, the dressing is really what you have to be careful for because the dressing, it's there's a lot of calories in there. So
Yeah.
the way I usually do it is I actually use Greek yogurt for my dressing. So I season the
Oh,
Greek
that's a great
yogurt.
tip.
Yeah, it's a lot less calories. I guess you can do like light salad dressing. I don't really like salad dressing too much just because I feel like it tastes a little bit too much like vinegar and I'm not a fan. I use like yogurt, Greek yogurt, and I mix seasonings in there. I have to see if I could find the name. It's like a buffalo cheese seasoning. And I picked it up. Where did I get it? Sam's Club. So I'm sure
No.
like Walmart or anywhere has it. And that's what I make my salad dressing out of. And I really enjoy it. And it's very low calorie because it's salad. Yeah. But really, the dressing I find is like the biggest culprit. Like a lot, like if you go to McDonald's, or I don't even know if McDonald's sells salad, but I know Wendy's does. It's not that low calorie, but a lot of it is because of the croutons, the salad, sometimes the cheese that they add, and all of that adds up. So I don't do any of that. And I just have the tomato, lettuce, onions, and then the chicken and the seasoning. And it's high protein and really low calorie. So I that's like my favorite actually.
Oh my gosh, I want to go make some. That
Yeah.
sounds so
And it's
good.
easy. It's so easy. So
I wanted to ask you, did your doctor ever talk to you about nutrition because you talked about the whole conversation? It sounds like she gave you a lot of information, but did she ever talk about the nutrition part of it?
not a whole lot. She did mention she said like avoid greasy food. So
Okay.
she did say don't eat that because the medication makes everything sit in your stomach longer. So it's if you're especially if you're prone to have GI upset and then you get on this medication and it's just sitting in your stomach for longer, it's probably just not going to feel very good. So she did mention to stay away from greasy foods and to make sure I was drinking a lot of water and protein. But other than that, not a whole lot of what I should eat or shouldn't eat. Just a focus on no greasy foods, up my protein, and make sure that I'm drinking water. That was basically her suggestion.
Okay, okay. And what about exercise? Did she suggest that you exercise?
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, I have a really good relationship with her. And so she knows that I have a lot of kids and I'm really busy. But she just really encouraged me to try to do that, especially because I had expressed to her that I probably wouldn't want to be on this for life. And she had said, we talked a lot that first visit. And she said, if I had any hope of not having to be on this, then it was really going to be me making changes, like lifestyle changes. And she just didn't think that I would be able to get off this medication successfully if I was still eating the same way or not exercising, which of course makes sense. And so she just felt if I wanted that to be my end goal, then I was going to have to make a lot of changes.
That makes sense. Oh, good. It sounds like you had a great conversation with her. So
I
you
did.
don't always hear that. You don't always hear people talk about those types of conversations. They just get the medicine and they go. So
Yeah.
I think that was great. Tell us about your exercise adventure. So were you exercising at all before? Has exercise been a part of your life before Zepbound?
Yeah. So I had started with that app. And that was really only because I knew I had this appointment coming up and I was trying to lose. That was the only reason why. I wasn't
I
trying to
love
get
how honest you are.
that was the only reason why. I didn't have I didn't have the right mindset. I just wanted to lose weight so that I can show up at my doctor and be like, yeah, I'm making changes. But that didn't last because I didn't have the mindset. Other than that, I started Zepbound and I didn't do any exercise for the first month. I didn't do anything. Then my second and third month, I started walking. And I really discovered I liked it. I really enjoyed walking, but I would have continued with that, but the bugs were getting really bad. It was like late spring at that point and I live in the country. There's like tons of bugs. It was just like I wasn't going to be able to walk outside. So I did get a walking pad and that helped, but it was just I'm not sure what it was that really okay, I do know what happened. I was listening to Dr. Tina. I don't know if you're familiar with
I
her.
am. Yes.
Okay, so you know that she's really big on strength training, and
Yes.
especially for women as we get older. And so I had been listening to her for a while, and I guess I had a guilty conscience because I knew I wasn't strength training, and I enjoyed the walking because it was easy. And I guess I figured I should probably start strength training. So I did, and I started that. I guess it was month 3 or 4, something like that. And I was doing really well with that until September when school started. And then once school started, it's just so hard for me to go from summer mode back into teaching. And
Right.
a lot of that is because the grades always change. So I'm not doing the same thing. And my kids are all different, right? So like they're all from the same parents, they're raised the same, but they're all different and they have different learning styles. And so it's what works for one doesn't work for the other. And so I'm just constantly, there's just a lot of moving parts. And it takes
Hmm.
me a long time to get back into a routine. And so once September rolled around, I didn't have the energy to continue with my strength training. And so that kind of fell by the wayside. But I did start walking again a week or two ago, and I've been doing good with that. So I'm hoping to continue with that and then start strength training again. So, so that's basically what's going on now with that.
I think that's why I think your journey is relatable because we all have those hills and valleys, and you
Yeah.
start something new and then it doesn't work, something disrupts your schedule, and then you got to
Yes.
make a change. And so the fact that you're continuing to find something that works and not
Yeah.
just say, forget it, I'm not going
Yes.
to exercise, I
Yeah.
think that is key. Hey, I love that. I love that. So what does a day in the life for you look like? Because you said you're a mom and you're a homeschooling mom. Some stay-at-home moms, and I know not all, but some they have that time where they're, doing things around the house because their kids are at school, but your kids are
Right.
home. So
Yeah.
how do you find time to juggle everything and meal prep and all the things that you do? How do you find the time to do that?
Yeah. So I don't find the time to do it all. There's always something that falls by the wayside. It's just if I'm doing really good with meal prepping, then that's because I'm not doing something else. So if I'm exercising consistently, it's because I'm not doing other things consistently. And it's a constant struggle trying to find that balance. But a typical day for me looks like waking up, taking my daughter that goes to school, and then coming home, having maybe, if I'm lucky, a half hour before my youngest wakes up. And once he wakes up, pretty much all productivity goes out the window. He's on the spectrum. We think he's on the spectrum. So I have a couple of kids that have some issues, and we see some of the similarities with him, but he just hasn't been like officially diagnosed. And so he demands a lot of time. And so once he's up, I'm pretty much with him from then until he finally goes to bed. So it's hard finding the time to do anything because he's just always right next to me like the whole day.
Now,
He
is
wakes
that the one that's in your videos sometimes?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So cute,
Yeah.
adorable.
He's a cute little boy. He has certain ideas about how things should go. And if his day doesn't go exactly the same way every day, he gets upset and then it takes him a long time to regulate. So that's what I'm doing. I'm helping him all day long get through the day. But once he gets up, I get busy with him, and then my other kids are waking up, and then I'm making breakfast, and then we're starting school. And by the time I'm done with school, it's already like 3 o'clock. And by that point, I'm like mentally ready to tap out. And so I really only have a short time between when I'm done with school and when I have to start dinner again. So in that short window, I'll maybe do a little bit of housework, run an errand if I have to. And I don't know, the day just seems to fly by. Before I know it's time to make dinner, and that takes me a while cooking for so many people. And then it's almost time for bed, and then, repeat again the next day. So I don't do anything fun or adventurous or anything like that. It's pretty mundane, I'm sure.
I wanted to ask you, so you said you're not very social, you're focused on home, which is great.
Yeah.
But do you guys eat out? So do you ever go and eat out? Is that like a treat? Do you get a chance to do
Yeah.
that?
We don't, just because it would be very expensive to do. Like we occasionally do, but it's very expensive for all of us to even go into McDonald's. You're talking about 10 to 12, $15 per person, like for everybody to get like a meal. And that's like
Which
$100 right
was what
there.
was not that way years ago. Now you can go to a restaurant for what you would pay.
So we
Uh,
don't do a whole lot of that. Just Yeah, it's just expensive. It's just expensive. So when we do, it's a really big treat. It's a treat for them and it's a treat for me because I don't have to make dinner. So
Now, how do you find time to record your videos? Because right now it's quiet. You would never know that 11 people, well, 10, including yourself, it's 11 people living
right.
in the house. So you would
Yeah.
never know that it was people living there. Do you have a time carved out where you video? I know sometimes you video in your car.
Yeah. I usually will have my older girls watch the younger guys and just make sure that they're not causing too much trouble. But if they can't because they're busy doing whatever it is that they're doing, I'll just say, okay, can you just keep an eye while I go sit in the car just for a second and just make sure that no one's getting hurt. And so I'll just sit in the car for a little while, try to record it and try to make sense in that short amount of time. And then otherwise, I'll put a video on to hopefully keep my youngest occupied just long enough, or I'll give him like a snack or something. Just I just try to fit it in whenever. Like whenever I see an opportunity, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna film.
Now, what does your family feel about you being on YouTube?
They all think it's very strange because I'm not like a social butterfly. So they all think they were all shocked that I wanted to do this. They just did not see it coming. I still think it's crazy that I'm doing it because I'm very introverted and I'm a homebody. And so I don't like being in front of people. Like that's like my worst nightmare. But I really started the channel because I was actually so amazed at how well the medication worked that I felt I had to go get on YouTube and tell people, which it's funny because I didn't even realize that there were other people already talking about this medication way before me. But it just felt so life changing that I really just, it was like a few days after my first injection. And I was like, I have to tell people that this works and that it's not as scary as they probably have been hearing. So that's really why I started the chance to tell people that this could be a good opportunity.
Oh, cool. So what month did you start
I
your
started
channel?
I started in my first injection was February 22nd and my first video was like three days later.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. So you were inspired, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I was really just so shocked at how well it worked. I just couldn't, like, I knew I was always thinking about food, but I didn't realize how much I was thinking about it until I wasn't thinking about it anymore. I wanted to shout it from the rooftops. I really did because I felt like it was a miracle. It, I just couldn't believe how well it worked. And it felt like it wasn't real. And I wasn't thinking about food. I wasn't hungry. And I just had to tell people. And other people were already doing it, but I didn't even realize that was like a thing. I really didn't. I just had to tell people. And because I was hearing so many negative things about it. And I had never gone onto YouTube to look for people that were talking about their journey. And so the only information that I had ever heard of was like from the media. And they were all negative. And so I just
Mhm.
wanted to share that it didn't have to be that way.
Didn't have to be negative. I agree. I agree. We're glad you did because we love your channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we talked a little bit about this. Your end goal is you said to get down to 135,
Yeah. About
about 135, and the body fat percentage is what you're trying to target.
right. I want to get down. I don't know if it's possible. We'll see. But if I can get down to 25% body fat, I would be very happy. Right now, I'm at 29% body fat.
Okay. All right. Also, you're super close. You are super
Yeah.
close.
Yeah. It's going a little slower now. I'm not losing the weight as quickly as I was initially. So I'm only losing about a pound, not even every week. Some weeks it'll just be a couple of ounces, if anything. So it's going a little slower, but that's okay. I'm okay with that.
And what dose are you on? Can you tell us, because you titrated up slowly, can you tell us about your decisions? Were you contacting your doctor every time you thought to titrate up or down, or was it just a decision you made based on your body and what you were
So,
feeling?
yeah, we had talked about it. And like I mentioned, I want to be able to get off this medication. And so she felt that if that was my wish, if I wanted to be able to get off the medication, she just thought it would be easier if I stay on the lowest dose just to make that transition a little easier. And so, like the lowest effective dose. And so I've been on 5 milligrams since for 7 months, and it's been working pretty good up until about a month ago or so. And I started to feel like the food noise coming back, a little bit more of the cravings. But at the same time, that kind of coincided with the time where I wasn't doing so great with the protein. So
Okay.
could it be that my body has adapted to 5 and it's no longer effective? Yes. It could also be that I'm really not doing so good with my protein anymore. It could be a combination of the two. So I'm not sure. Was it last week? Yes, it was last week. I tried 7.5. So this gets confusing. I had over the summer, I had thought I was ready to move up to 7.5. And I had emailed my doctor, and she thought that was fine because I had been on 5 milligrams at that point for 4 or 5 months. So she didn't have any problem writing a prescription for 7.5. I took it and I did not have a good reaction. I felt sick to my stomach. I was bloated. I was nauseous. I couldn't eat anything, like barely eating. I didn't like the way I felt. I just felt sick. And so I didn't want to try it again the following week. So I decided to go back to 5 milligrams. So I've had this box of 7.5 sitting in my fridge since the summer. And my last visit, which was, I think it was in September, I had mentioned that I was struggling a little bit with the cravings, especially during my cycle. And so she had suggested that since I have the box of 7.5, that I try the 7.5 during my cycle to see if that makes any difference. And so I did, and I tried that last week. So I was a little worried about it because I wasn't sure if I would have that same like reaction, but I didn't have any of those same symptoms. But I also didn't feel any different. Like I was still, it felt exactly 5 milligrams. It didn't feel any different. So I actually talked about this in my last video, and a couple of people had left comments saying that I should probably try to do it again because sometimes it takes a little while for it to build up in your system. Yeah, so I thought that made sense. And I actually took 7.5 again this morning. Today's Saturday. Yeah, I took it this morning and we'll see how it goes. But I wasn't too impressed with it. I didn't really feel that it was like amazing but we'll see. Maybe this week is a little better and maybe it will build up. So so I have one more 7.5. I think I'll do that again next week. And if I don't feel like it's really any different than 5 milligrams, I'm just going to stay on 5 milligrams.
So can you give us any advice for newbies, someone starting new on Zepbound? What advice would you give them?
Starting out, I would suggest just go slow. I think there's a change now I think initially people were moving up, like their doctors were having them move up every month. And I think that's changing a little bit now, I think, just from what I've read and comments and things. But that's what I would suggest. Go slow so that you don't reach that top dose and you might have still half your goal to lose. So I would say just go slow and focus on protein. Definitely focus on protein because that makes a big difference. And I think if you're debating, especially if you're debating to go up in dose like I am, I think if you can focus on protein at least for a couple of weeks and see if that makes a difference, it might make a difference. And then you don't have to go up in dose, or you could delay it for a month, maybe two. And I guess not to compare. We're all different, and I think all of us are coming into this at different points. And so some of us we have more like metabolic health issues that are going to get in the way of losing weight. If you're insulin resistant or type 2 diabetic or anything like that, that's going to definitely impact how well you're able to, or how quickly you're able to lose the weight. And I think now there's so many channels, so many of us sharing our story, which is a good thing because you see how different it can be for everybody. But then at the same time, you might feel like maybe you're not losing 2 pounds a week, or you're not even losing. I would say don't consume all this content if it's going to have that effect on you, because you just don't, you want to have a positive outlook. and you want to feel hopeful about what's possible. And if watching all these things is going to have the opposite effect, then it's not worth bringing yourself down with that.
I agree. I think that's great advice. Great advice. I
Yeah.
love the tip about titrating up because you don't hear a lot of people say or stress focus on the protein as one of the main factors before you decide. So I think that's a great tip.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
can you tell us one word that would describe you before Zepbound? Like what was your mindset? What's one word that would describe where you were before
Yeah.
Zepbound?
So I just saw your interview with Taisha. I saw it this morning, and I think I would have the same word, like hopeless. I felt really hopeless. I wanted to get better. I wanted to get healthy. I just felt like powerless to do anything about it. And I think I just felt like I almost resigned myself, I think, to just living that way and just being uncomfortable. And yeah, it was, my family is pretty active, and my husband likes to take walks and or hikes and do things. And it was like a beautiful fall day, and we had all the kids and my husband, we went out for this walk, and I had a hard time, and I actually had to turn back. I couldn't continue the walk, and I took my youngest with me, and he was almost like a cover for what was really going on. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that he would have been fine. In fact, he didn't want to leave. He was like crying and screaming because he wanted to stay, but I couldn't continue. And my husband didn't want to be stuck with him either. So he was like, if you go, he has to go. But I definitely downplayed the fact that I couldn't continue the walk because it was embarrassing. Like all my kids, my younger kids are able to do this with no problem. And here I am, my ankles were killing me, and my back was killing me. And it wasn't a hike like a big deal. It wasn't
Right,
like
right.
that, but I was just so uncomfortable and out of breath. And yeah, I just felt like after that was probably, yeah, it was in the fall. So I hadn't started Zepbound. I just felt like that was going to be my lot in life, because I just didn't think I could do anything to change it. And I had tried, like before starting Zepbound, I had tried different times, and it just I never lasted more than a month or two. So it just felt discouraging.
Yeah, these diets are hard to maintain because you cut things out. I think that's the great thing about being on the medication. You can cut things out if that's the route you choose to go, but you don't have to be
Right.
successful. And I
Right.
think that's what makes it attainable for a lot of us. And
Yeah.
so, what word would you use to describe yourself now?
Hopeful. I think hopeful.
You went
You
from
know,
hopeless to hopeful.
yeah. Yeah. I really think that I could see I have things I want to do, and I feel like I can do them now. And I know that I've talked about this before, but one of them is horses. I love horses, and I want a horse so bad. And I would not have been able to even think about this. Like, I wouldn't even allow myself to think about it because it just seemed so unrealistic. And it was at 214 pounds and just being really unhealthy, it was unrealistic. But now I'm starting to see that I can do that. And I feel really good about that. And it's really like a dream that I've had for a long time, that I've never, I guess my family knows I like horses, but I don't think they realize how much, because I didn't want to give it too much energy because I knew that I really couldn't, that
You thought
wasn't
it
like
was
a
out of
reality.
reach.
Yeah, exactly. And now I feel like it is. And so I'm just like so excited about that.
Wow. Well, that's awesome. What a great
Yeah.
testimony. No wonder you started a YouTube channel. You were so excited about the medication.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder what's the best thing about Zepbound? What would you say the best thing about it is?
Yeah, the best thing is the lack of the food noise. Of course, the losing weight, of course, but really just not constantly thinking about food. There's a lot of freedom in that. And like before, I was constantly thinking about it, and then I would try not to think about it, but you're thinking about it more then because you're trying to focus on other things, but you're almost like more aware of it. And I think now that I don't have that issue anymore, I have more space in my brain to think of other things. So that has been amazing. And I think the medication just it gives me anyway the ability to make better choices because I have more self control. And I realize that I don't have to eat this. Like I could if I want to, but I could also eat something better for me, something with like less calories or more protein. And I'm able to make that choice. I wasn't able to do that before. I didn't, it's not that I didn't know what was good or what was healthy. I just couldn't make that choice. And I feel like now I can. So for sure, that's been the best part of it.
I think freeing up your mind is a great point. I think I've said that before too. I have all kind of free time in my mind. I'm not planning
Yeah,
my next meal and thinking what I'm
that's true.
gonna have for
Yeah.
dinner or planning to go to a restaurant or planning to do something related to food. I feel like now that it's not on my mind, I realize how much it was on my mind.
Yeah,
And yeah, that
definitely.
is great. Now, what about the worst thing? If you had to say there was a worst thing or something that was a bad thing about Zepbound, what would it be?
A bad thing. I don't know. I really haven't. Maybe dealing with some of the negativity. I think, especially if people find out that you're on it and they might not be so supportive. I think I've had a couple of comments from people saying that they haven't told anybody that they're on the medication because they don't want to deal with that. So I think just just the negative outlook that people have can be hard. I thankfully haven't had that issue, but I know it's an issue that a lot of people have to deal with, especially if you're out and you're working and people are noticing that you're losing weight and maybe you don't feel like you want to tell them, so now you're not mentioning it and now you feel like you're lying, and it's just that's probably, I would imagine, that's the worst part of it. Definitely I don't think it's side effects. I know that some people do, but I think if you do this smart and change some of your eating habits, and I'm not saying you have to overhaul your whole diet, but like maybe avoid the greasy foods if they upset your stomach, or don't have them all the time. I think if you do it that way, I really don't think side effects have to be a part of it, especially not to the degree that you hear about, like on the news with all these like stomach paralysis and
Hmm.
gastroparesis or whatever it's called. So I don't think it has to be that way.
I agree. I agree. I have a question for you that's not your traditional question, so you might have to think about this, but would you rather lose weight slowly but steadily or lose weight quickly with challenges?
Oh wow. The right answer should be slowly and slow and steady. That should probably be, that probably is the right answer. But the quickly with challenges is tempting. The mature part of me would say slow and steady. The impatient part of me would say I'll deal with the challenges. But that's a good question. That's a good question. I'm not sure about that one.
So with your own weight loss journey, which one does your weight loss journey reflect? Slow and steady or quick with challenges?
Yeah, I would say definitely slow and steady. Aside from that first week or two where I lost a bunch of weight, it's been about 2 pounds a week pretty consistently. And then now it's a lot less than that. But yeah, I would say slow and steady, which is fine because that's probably more sustainable anyway.
So how do you handle the weeks when you don't lose?
Yeah, that could get discouraging for anybody. I just trust the process. I just make sure that I'm not getting in my head and not stressing too much about it, because I know now that a lot of things can affect that water retention, or if you still have cycles, that can. So I just try not to focus on it. I did have, I think it was my fourth month where I didn't lose any weight that whole month. And I think the old me would have been really stressed out about that. And I probably would have had that as an excuse to just give up. But I guess having the medication makes me feel like I'm going to be successful. And so when I have those weeks where the scale is not moving, or maybe it's going up and down, I really don't stress about it. I know eventually, if I just keep doing what I'm doing and not give up, it'll keep moving again. It might take a little while, but it'll keep moving again. So I definitely think that the medication gives me that reassurance that I can do this.
Yeah, I agree with that. So is there
Mhm.
anything else you want to share with us? Anything else you want to tell us?
Yeah, I would just encourage anybody, if they're thinking about this medication and they're on the fence and they're not sure because of things that they've heard, I would say to give it a, I was going to say give it a shot, but I think it's definitely worth it, because you could always get off the medication, right? So it's not like you can get on it, and if it's absolutely not working out for you for whatever reason, you could just stop. Like it's not going to do any kind of damage for you to you. So I would say try it and see if it works for you, because it really has been life changing for me and a lot of other people. So I would
Sure.
say,
Yeah.
yeah, don't stress about all the negative things you hear about it and see if it's an option for you.
I agree. I agree. So before we go, can you tell us about your channel? Your channel is fabulous. I just
Thank
love
you.
it. I think you're so real. You're so honest. And a lot of times when I look on your thumbnails, I'll say, "Oh, Jill, I wonder what happened with," or I'll listen with her.
Yeah,
Because you're so real and so raw. And I love that because a lot of times when you don't lose every week, you feel the pressure. And I don't feel it as much. But I definitely did when I first started, felt the pressure of like, I have to report something. I'm not going to
yeah,
report a loss. But then I thought to myself, this is a realistic weight loss
yeah,
journey. Very few people have a straight line of success in anything we do. Any
yeah,
successful person they're going to have. It's going to be like a roller coaster. That's what the line is going to look like. It's probably not going to be straight.
yeah.
So when I think about that, puts everything in perspective. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I feel I've had weeks where I'm up a pound or two and then it comes down and then it goes up. And so sometimes it feels like it's, I don't know, like not what people want to see. Like they want to see something more motivational than that. But I think it's like you said, a weight loss journey is never going to look like that. It's just not, and it's not real life. And I think people can relate more to the up and down or just the stalls than they would if you're just like every week saying I lost another 2 pounds, and that might get discouraging for some people. So I think I just wanted to share exactly what's going on, and I didn't want to have to pretend. I wanted it to be real life and happen in real time. And so whatever happens from week to week is what I share, good or bad.
All right, very good. Subscribe to her channel. She's
Thank
2.0
you.
mommy. We love her channel. We love your outlook. You're so calm and you have such a calming, spirit. You're so positive. I love that. And you said you were like an introvert and pretty shy, and I would consider myself that too, believe it or not. Like
Yeah,
very shy. I said to my cousin, I asked her if she thought I was an introvert, and I feel like gaining weight has made me become an introvert. I was not always like that. But I've
yeah,
always had this thing about being around crowds. And she said, I wouldn't call you an introvert. I would say you're very shy. And so I can relate to you on that.
yeah.
Although most people wouldn't believe it because once I'm around and amongst people, I'm outgoing.
Yeah, yeah,
No
yeah,
holding me back. But it takes a lot to get to that. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I said, especially with the weight, it just really had made me very just want to stay at home and be by myself and not
yeah.
really be as social. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely see that. I know that kept me from wanting to do a lot of things or go places. I just didn't want to put myself out there. So I can see that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I enjoyed interviewing you. I
Thank
couldn't wait
you.
to chat with you. You
Thank
are
you.
just such an inspiration. You showing up in the chat. You've been one of those people that have just supported me from day one, and I really do
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
I look forward to your comments and I look forward to your videos. We're
It's a
just
great
here
community.
supporting each other. So I guess I will say not goodbye, but see you in the next video.
Yes. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.